I got 3 kids, man. 8, 14, 15. Best thing I ever did my whole life. Wish I had more. Wish I started earlier.
Yeah.
Love them to death. Best thing. Joy. Absolute rapturous joy.
Yeah.
What are you teaching your kids? How do you teach them? How do you transmit these messages? You sit down at the dinner table and you tell everybody shut up, and do you preach? I'm kidding. Do you I got a whiteboard in my dining room, dude. I'm breaking down things for the kids on the whiteboard all the time. When I'm driving them places, I'm preaching. Something comes up. But do you ever, what is your strategy? How do you handle imparting this information onto your children in a way that they're going to listen?
Yeah.
Because we're still stuck with that thing about dad sometimes. My daughter's coach will tell her, I'll tell her A, and my daughter's coach, and she'll say no. And then her coach will tell her the same thing. She'll be like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Which is natural, right? So like, how do you take all this and be a parent?
Yeah. We grab some material. Maybe a video for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or a document. We'll take turns reading it and then discuss it for an hour, all types of different concepts and things about life. Especially when something pops up in life and I'm like, all right, we need to discuss this. But yeah, piece by piece, and then try to relate everything back together, but I think it's about the time you spend. Just spend time talking. It doesn't even have to be like a formal lecture. Like I give formal lectures to the kids, but it's really more interactive, so I'll play a video, like let's say Walter E. Williams. I play a video. My daughter's 17, so I'm expecting more from her than the boys because they're 11. So I'll say thoughts. What do you think about that? What we just watched? And then she'll give me a breakdown, and then we'll just walk through her breakdown. And then I create an environment where nobody's right or wrong. It's just here's a thought and here's an opposing thought, right? And both can be true and both can be wrong. So it's really open ended, right? So when she potentially says something I disagree with, I won't disagree. I won't say that's wrong or I disagree. Instead, I frame it in a space and I'll say, what did you think about this? Or what do you think about this? And then she'll stop and she'll think. She goes, okay, that's true too. I get that, right? Because sometimes what happens is when you do the disagree thing, they withdraw, right? And you don't want them to withdraw. No. So you always want them engaged and ready to go in the conversation so you can keep the conversation going. And they'll always be open and ready to talk to you about anything. So, that's the environment I create.
That's a great piece of advice right there. Parents, don't try to be right. Just try to keep the communication open. I've
Yeah.
learned that lesson the hard way. I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way because I can get a little passionate sometimes. And when your kids are coming at you with something they heard from somebody else who's diametrically opposed to your worldview, it's hard not to get jazzed up. So one piece of advice I would give other parents out there is like, just with all narratives and all ideas, whoever's first usually wins, bro. So like,
Yes.
try to be first and try to be early so that by the time they make it into high school or where it starts earlier than that, by the time they get influenced by people that have views that are unproductive for them and counter to what believe your values, that they have a baseline for reference
Yeah.
so that when they hear it, they're like, well, that's not what I heard. Instead of never talking about any of this crap. And then they come home from school and they're like, Daddy, I'm a toaster gender. And you're like, and you got to start from scratch, and you have to detach that ego invested idea that they have that I'm a toaster gender. I'm gender toaster. They believe it. They were proud to tell you. This did not happen with my family, by the way. It's just an example. But like, they're proud to tell you that they learned it. They've adopted it. It's part of their worldview. And kids are malleable and they try things out all the time. But
Yeah.
you got to be first. You got to be first and early and consistent, and truly by example. But I for me, one of the best things I'm going to take away from this conversation is is a reminder that being right isn't the point of the conversation with my kids. The point of the conversation is the conversation, and
Mhm.
to create a dynamic that will facilitate conversation forever,
Correct.
not to win this one right now. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why you're wrong, and your teacher's wrong, all your friends and your friends' parents are wrong. I'm going to tell you right now.
Hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't work, bro. Trust me, I tried it.
Yeah, it's not going to work at all.
It's
Yeah.
not going to work at all.
Yeah. It's better to just have a great relationship with your kids than to try to control them.
Yeah. Or even just to control what they're thinking.
Yeah. Like I said, they're the future. So at some point, they're going to know better than you, right?
I hope.
You just have to bestow them with that wisdom that you've gotten and that experience that you've gotten, and say, here's where we've gotten so far. I need you to take this to the next level.
Yeah.
So here's what I've been able to do. What can you do with this? Here's my truth. Expand upon this, right? And here's the lies in the world. Expand upon this, right? But always keeping that door open for conversation, and saying, for example, with my daughter, we do brunch every Sunday, just me and her every Sunday. Right? And that's our time together. No cell phones, just me and her, brunch, just talk and just have this conversation. So the new thing is, I'm trying to talk about it without revealing it. Let's just say she has desires to go mainstream and I want her to be independent, right? So I didn't say to her, don't be independent. I just laid out the pros and cons, like, hey, going, mainstream has its perks. Here are the cons. Here's the pros of being independent. Here are the cons of being independent. And basically how we ended the conversation was, I don't want you to have to make this decision today. This is a conversation we're going to have for the next year. And maybe a year from now, you'll make this decision. But we'll just continue to have this conversation until whatever decision you make makes sense. And I'll show you how to navigate that decision. So if she chooses to go mainstream, I'll say, okay, good. Watch out for this. Watch out for this. Do this. Don't do that. Instead of me saying, don't do that because I'm afraid of what might happen. Who knows?
Mm.
She might do something in the mainstream that nobody's ever been able to accomplish before, right? Who am I to say it can't be done in mainstream? Maybe this new generation knows something I don't know. There's been times where I'm fiddling with the PlayStation and my son, 11 years old, comes around and shows me some shit I didn't even fucking know about. It was like, yo, these kids know this technology better than I do, So it's about giving them freedom, and letting them roam, but still guiding them, saying, "Hey, watch out for the fox on the side of the road. Watch out for the wolf over there, and go straight. I didn't want you to go that way, but if you're going to go that way, I can show you how to go down that path."
I'm facing a similar circumstance right now with my daughter who, at her school, college, 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 college all the time, college, college, college all the time. If you don't go to college, you're going to live in your mom's basement. You're going to be a loser for the rest of your life. If you don't go to college, got to go to a fancy college. That college costs $60,000 a year. You got to do that. That's $250,000. Got to do it. No questions asked. Don't even question. Don't ask a question. So we're having that conversation. We're having that conversation right now, and it's tough. It's tough because there's a lot of forces working on her, trying to tell her that the only way to be successful is to go to a high level college and to pay all that money and to get into the system and to become part of the machine.
Mm.
And it's a tough struggle because, yes, I went to college and I went to master's. I got a master's from Georgetown. Still paying for that thing, by the way, 45 years old. But did it work for me? I think maybe. I don't know. I'm not doing anything that sort of path would have described. But yet all that information and all the things that I learned, I use every single day when I'm talking to people. So it's hard to say. But the last thing I want to see for my kids is for them to end up fat, sick, in debt, and chained to a desk. And so this is what I keep trying to tell them. And I think that we've settled down on like two options. It's like, one, if you can get a scholarship and go to a good school, whether it's an academic scholarship or an athletic scholarship, go for it. Top school, go for it. You want to row in the Ivy Leagues and you get paid to do it, I support it. Go for it. But anything short of a top 20 or top 50 school, forget it. Go to community college, figure out what you want to do, get an associate's, and then if you want to continue on, transfer into a 4-year institution of your choice at that point. Much easier to get in as a junior, by the way, and your degree will still say whatever university it was. You don't even have to tell people that you went to community college. That's one avenue. And then for my son, it's like, look, man, be a hustler. My dream from him is never to work for anybody ever in his whole life, not ever. You know, he's 14. He's already had 5-6 hustles, and he's still working on more. Still working every day. He's got a new idea. And through those hustles, man, we have taught him how to use Excel. We've taught him about cash flow, taught him the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet. What is an asset? What is debt? Man, we even got, it's so funny. If you dig in and you ask the kids questions, you can learn a lot. So he was selling candy at school, and he's like, guys would come to me and ask me if they would ask him if they could take the candy and go sell it and share with them the profits. I'm like, oh, they want you to front candy, front them some candy. I'm like, yeah, dude, you can do that. That's how you establish a sales force. That's one option. Or he would talk about kids coming to him and saying, can I just get candy today? I'll pay you tomorrow. And he said that he did that. It's usually $2. He's like, all right, but you got to pay me $3 tomorrow. And the guy's like, okay, cool. So then we had a conversation about vendor credit. You know, it's like, it's just incredible. If you ask enough questions, you can find ways to teach them in the lessons. But you know, the kids in high school right now, dude, I feel so bad for them. First of all, COVID ruining everything for them.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody who lost out besides the people who died? God, you know, sorry, RIP. But is there anybody who missed out more on anything than seniors who graduated in the year, or graduating this year, 2021? They missed out on so much unnecessarily. I feel terrible for them. They can't even get into college next year. You know why? Because all those kids who were supposed to start college at the beginning of this academic year, they deferred. Now there's no spots. And people can't get into colleges that their whole family went to like University of Wisconsin or whatever. And now they can't even get into University of Wisconsin because everyone deferred from last year and they're maxed out for 21, 22. So I feel terrible for those kids. But the kids right now, they have a choice. It's the starkest choice that there's ever been, because college has never been as more expensive. The consequences of student loans have never been more dire. And the opportunity to self-teach and to be independent has never been greater. And this is sort of like this transition point right now where the kids that decide to buck the system are going to be an experiment, sort of an experiment. And I mean, to me, it's time tested and proven, but it's still going to be an experiment to buck the system. And that takes courage. It takes courage. So this is what I have to instill in them, is courage to try something different.
Yeah. I teach my kids not to buck the system.
To hack the system.
Yeah, exactly. You know, because sometimes trying to buck the system can get you in trouble. You just have to understand the system and don't become a victim of the system. And then find the loopholes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Because I was the type of guy who bucked against the system, and I don't want my kids going through that.
I don't believe that for a second, dude.
Oh man, I was bucking the system all through school.
Dude, I don't even think I graduated high school. I'm 99.99% sure that they were just like, get out of here, dude. Just get out of here.